Okay, so this is gonna be a fun one. This is my race talk series. I'm Felicia Follum. If you want to check it out on Instagram, it's RACE or hashtag RACETALKFF. Uh, this one, why is there no white studies? Oh, this was a pet peeve for a long time. Well, pardon the snarkiness. I'm gonna get a little attitude probably, so I apologize in advance. Um, yeah. But first of all, there are people with white studies degrees. There's a camp that I taught art at for children, Afro-Caribbean children that are adopted by white parents, where the parents do seminars that help them um, learn how to talk to a black child because their experience is so much different. So there's necessity there. And then the children did workshops and art classes and those types of things that helped them express their stories and share their stories, working through those traumas. So the person, the man with the white studies degree, he led a seminar at that event. I think he was actually the keynote that kind of did most of the seminars. So there are people, and I believe he had a PhD in white studies. So white studies does exist. It's a real thing. It's largely used for how do white people work with other groups, from what I've seen. So it does exist. So there you go. Outside of that, if you have an answer, tell me, what would white studies study that isn't included in general American history? What was left out? The biggest things I can think of, and I'm not trying to be mean with this, but the biggest things I can think of are groups like the KKK and neo-Nazis and white supremacy. So if you really want to focus on those things and dig deep, I don't know what else would be in a white studies class that isn't in general American history. Personally, I think Black history shouldn't necessarily even need to be called Black history. Same with Native American history. These histories should just be in American history, but they're not taught. They're left out. A lot of people, they know slavery and then the Civil War but they know like the mammy, the happy slave, and they know the Civil War, and then they know Martin Luther King, and then everyone was happy. Like, oh my gosh. And then I guess like Rosa Parks sat on a bus and it was a big deal. And Harriet Tubman did stuff. Like just the Black history that we get in grade school is so minimal and so much is left out. And this might be because I'm from the North too. So people in the South, I know they get a little bit more on. But we don't hear about America was literally built by Black people and Native American slaves. Most Native American slaves were actually wiped out, so there weren't many of them doing the building. But Black people did the physical labor. Black people built the buildings. Black people harvested the crops. Like, Black people did everything. Black people were bred for economics. The economics of our country was built on Black people. I have a book. Oh, it's not right there. Sorry. Like, everything was built by Blacks. And though there were white people that did certain things, like, yes, there were great, wonderful white people that were leading. I mean, let's take Thomas Jefferson. He's a great example. He did good things, yes. He had 600 slaves working for him, and he was breeding with his favorite slave, Sally Hemings. Like, let's not pretend that the rape and violence that was happening, and his slaves were worth more than his entire 50,000 acre estate, right? So his wealth was his slaves, right? Like, literally, his wealth was his slaves. So those things are just left out of American history. You learn about Thomas Jefferson as this great person who the Emancipation Proclamation, which was great, but he was still owning hundreds of slaves when he wrote it, right? Like, and yes, if you read through some of his writings, he wrestled with the issue. He acknowledged that it was tough, but why don't we use that to teach critical thinking? Why don't we use that? Like, why do we leave so much out of American history? And so, yeah, there is a need for Black history and African American, and Native American history and Chicano history, because we don't learn it, right? Like, you do not learn it. I was talking to a friend from high school about history and just school, and we're like, yeah, we both kind of felt like school wasn't for us growing up, right? Because you've got like Pilgrims and Indians for Thanksgiving, and kids are dressing up as like Indians and Pilgrims. Like, what the crap? Like, And so like you have Native American friends, like, I don't know why we're doing this. It's not respectful towards you. We know that. Like, why are we doing this crap? And then like you so rarely, like I had one choice of who to dress up for Famous Faces. Like Harriet Tubman was the only Black person we knew of, Black female in 5th grade. So, right? Okay, so white studies. Okay, white studies. And the white history month. We don't have a white history month because white is kind of the standard. It's the norm, right? But we do have Irish history months, and we do have Dutch history month, and we do have German history months, right? We have a whole bunch of white ethnicities and cultures represented in months and days and celebrations. So we have these things, we have these heritage that are represented and studied, but you want a white history month or a white history class. Okay, what's left out? What has been left out? Give me a logical answer. The best one I've come up with so far, like I said, is the KKK and neo-Nazis, doing an in-depth study on those types of groups and white power and white supremacy. So let me know below if you still want your White History Month, okay? Let me know if you still need your White History Studies class, and tell me what you would put in it that isn't in American history. And also tell me how it's more important than the basics of African American history as well. What contributions were left out? Yeah, and don't tell me like the Irish were left out, because we have Irish studies, right? Like these things already exist. So told you it might get heated. Thanks for watching. My other ones are not this frustrated, but it's a pet peeve. So love you guys. I will see you later.